A mystery murder unsolved for a century. The well-known art patron who couldn't resist beauty of this work. The artist who created this masterpiece won the world's hearts for life but was forgotten after his death. The National Art Museum of Ukraine became the first public museum in Kyiv over 100 years ago. Nowadays, it is the oldest museum in Ukraine and remains a culture treasure of the country to this day. The museum was created to glorify Russian Emperor Nicholas II. A major portion of funding for the museum's construction was given by such art patrons including Mykola Terещенko, Bogdan Khanenko, Mykola Bielashivsky and others. Spacious apartments, ordinary for that time, furniture and exquisite clothing. Colors inherent in the nouveau style of art. The colors are with grey and pink shades. An elegant and graceful woman posed for the artist. She had the black hat as if the bird of prey is sitting on her hair. And in her hands she holds such kind of a sleeve which blends with the black color of her hat.
Річ у тому, що на той час надзвичайно важлива була мода також.
In fact, fashion was very important at that time. It was of great importance. It wasn't easy to depict facial features, eyes and so on. It was also important to demonstrate the clothing in which woman was sitting. Gentlemen never paid attention to their dress codes. Women were fashionistas at that time. Fashion used to change every 10 years. It is the European style with Ukrainian soul. Portrait of Vera Yapanchina became the visiting card of Oleksandr Murashko. At the same time, everything was done very simply but harmoniously. The works were done exactly in the manner of the artist in which he was working in the last years of his life. Why did the artist change the style? How did the portrait change the life of the heroine? Was there a connection between his work and the most famous aristocrats of the world? Oleksandr Murashko was born in the late summer of 1875. From that day onwards, he had a tough life. His father had already passed away when he was born. Maria Krasovska, his mother, gave him birth in Kyiv. After that, she left her son with a peasant family. Fortunately, an uncle found out some information about little boy. Finally, he found a peasant family which took him back. The boy lived with his grandmother and uncle in Borzna near Chernihiv. Later, Maria Krasovska married the iconographer master Oleksandr Murashko. That is the story behind his name Murashko. Murashko Sr. found some work connected with the design of St. Volodymyr Cathedral in 1884. Thus, Murashko Jr. arrived in Kyiv. He was present during the restoration works of St. Volodymyr Cathedral. Actually, he studied. He was a very talented young man, in fact.
Саме тоді, коли він побачив російських художників, які...
Here he met famous Russian painters Vasnetsov and Nesterov, who participated in the decoration of St. Volodymyr Cathedral. Later they became close friends until his death. Polish symbolist painter Wilhelm Kotorbinski and the Svedomski brothers also worked in the cathedral. Murashko realized that he could be not only the icon painter, but a real artist.
Не іконописцем, ні, а стати справжнім художником.
The boy was obsessed in becoming an artist. Unfortunately, his stepfather didn't share his aspirations as there was a lack of workers in the studio. Only with assistance of friends and relatives, Oleksandr Murashko was sent to St. Petersburg to study at the higher art school. After 2 years, Oleksandr was taken to studio of Russian realist painter Ilya Repin. All this was for his protection, which was guaranteed by Mykola Murashko, his uncle and founder of the first cave drawing school. Ilya Repin, being the portrait master and the idol for the St. Petersburg youth, was attracted by the brilliant works of Oleksandr Murashko. Therefore, he became the portraitist in Repin's studio. Murashko continued his further education in Europe. This trip changed the artist's style forever. Oleksandr Murashko left for Paris in 1901. On one hand, the French period was the most successful in his creative biography. On the other hand, financial patrons considered Paris as quite dangerous for the young, temperamental artist. Murashko continued his study in Munich.
Я хочу сказати, що на той час, на початок 20-го століття...
I want to say that Munich and Paris were artistic cities in the beginning of the 20th century. Impressionism, together with the Art Nouveau, was very popular in Paris at that time.
Також період модерну, це Art Nouveau, був дуже популярний.
Oleksandr Murashko was involved in this perfect color process. In fact, colors for Impressionists were of great importance. He tried to use vividness of colors being in Paris. The same style of modernity was in Munich.
Стиль модерну також.
Перші його твори – це академічні твори, вони в основному у темному.
His first academic works were done in dark brown, grey colors. The palette of his works completely changed after he went abroad.
Його творів – широкі пастозні мазки.
He used a lot of sunny shades. He was looking for sun illumination and more air. Oleksandr Murashko tried to present his mood in his paintings.
В своїх картинах.
Oleksandr Murashko returned to St. Petersburg in 1904. 3 years later, he arrived in Kyiv, where he became the icon of art. Noble people and patrons ordered his works. Once, the famous St. Petersburg general Nikolai Yepanchin visited the studio of the artist. General Yepanchin ordered the portrait of his daughter. In that year, in 1910, she married Baron Alexander Faltzfein.
Олександра Фальцфейна.
The artist used all of his skills learned in Europe. In 1910, he finished the portrait of Vera Yepanchina. This portrait was fatal for the young lady as it was painted just before her wedding.
Цей портрет малювався Олександром Олександрович, а потім він опиняється разом з Вірою Панчиною.
After her wedding, the young couple went to Kherson region near Askania Nova. The portrait was preserved there until the October Revolution in 1917.
Цей портрет до жовтневої революції 17-го.
At the beginning of the revolution, the Yepanchin family emigrated abroad, leaving all their relics at home.
Скажімо так, відразу емігрувати за кордон.
The artist's life was even worse than that of the heroine of the portrait. In June 1919, a terrible event happened to the painter, which remains a mystery to this day.
Зустріли його і його дружину Маргариту.
Bolshevik officers met Murashko and his wife Margarita near the house.
Сусідів поруч були. троє невідомих.
They ordered the woman to return back home, and after that they took Oleksandr Murashko to the police department.
А вашого чоловіка ми відведемо у Подільський.
The artist was carrying a document allowing him to walk at night.
Була навіть перепустка, що він має право увечері ходити.
None of the arguments worked in favor against the Bolshevik regime. Margarita Murashko had no choice but to go home. In a couple of days, she was informed that Oleksandr Murashko had been killed.
Коли його вели, судячи по всьому, він зрозумів, що...
Judging by everything, when Oleksandr knew they were going to kill him, he began to run. But there at Lukyanivka, between the ravines, which we knew well, his clothing got caught and he could not escape. Officers shot him in the head.
Не зміг втікти і в потилицю отримав вистріл.
Oleksandr Murashko's murder still remains a mystery. The portrait of Vera Ipanchina disappeared from the estate. Nobody knew about the destiny of the portrait for 3 decades. The history of the portrait is quite interesting. It appeared in the collection of famous Kiev doctor Anton Sobkevich in 1947. But Sobkevich died in 1945. His relatives sold the portrait to our museum.
І його вже родичі і продали нашому музею цей портрет Іпанчиної.
Unfortunately, the portrait was left in the museum's basement after Sobkevich's collection. Also, the modern style, such as bourgeois art, was prohibited in the Soviet times, and the portrait was forgotten until the 1990s. Murashko works caused a furor in the museum. A few years later, the portrait of Vera Ipanchina created the international resonance.
Що у 1999 році наш музей відмічає...
The National Art Museum celebrated its 100th anniversary in 1999. We found out that Vera Ipanchina's son lived in Liechtenstein. He had a villa Askania Nova. Museum representatives invited him to the museum celebration.
Вілла Асканія Нова. І ми запросили його на 100-літній ювілей нашого музею.
Edward Falzfein accepted the invitation. The Baron was shocked when he saw a girl's portrait of his mother. It was the picture of his mother 2 years before his own birth. Oleksandr Murashko is famous not only in Ukraine but all over the world. He received recognition during his life, except during the Soviet period.
Міжнародне значення він мав.
Oleksandr Murashko became internationally significant. Many of his works were presented at international exhibitions.
Твори з виставок.
The works of Oleksandr Murashko glorified not only the artist but Ukraine as well. Ukrainian avant-garde art reached a new international level. The artist from Kiev, with a European art education and sincere Ukrainian soul, left his unique mark on the world art map.